So I'm wondering what the criteria that you're using I mean, you talked about it, um, but you gave you implied a couple of different criteria, like that Islam centers on monotheism and that this makes it superior or more compelling than Christianity, which relies on theism or on the Trinity, except that Christianity is more popular than Islam. So what makes Islam more compelling other than the number of adherents? And then it seemed like you suggested that those other ones change, which I agree that's a problem when you think you've got the truth, and then it changes as the world, which has been impacted by uh, cognitive colonialism, changes around you, and your religion changes. That's a problem for your credibility. But that would make Scientology more credible. So, what criteria do we have to determine that Islam is the most compelling? Which one are you using?
Well, it's a confluence of factors. So there's not going to be one clear cut, oh, this is it. This is what makes it most compelling. It's a confluence of multiple factors, and that's natural. Like when we evaluate any kind of belief system, it's a complex belief system. You want to know if I accept capitalism or communism or socialism or anarchism. I'll evaluate those complex systems and find multiple things that are compelling about each one. Some will have deal breakers, some will be less compelling in other aspects. You have to take a confluence of factors. And these are just four that I mentioned. They're not the only four. But these are things where I think we can get a grasp on what do we mean by compelling? Like, what do we mean something is compelling? Or, oh, okay, this is an interesting idea. We should explore it. Maybe we should accept it. That's why, these are the four that I focused on. So, for example, I could, I'd ask you just very honestly to understand your perspective. So, would you concede, for example, or would you agree that it undermines religious belief when texts and doctrines change over time, and that Islam is more, assuming that it hasn't changed, Islam is more compelling than religions that have changed over time, like Christianity, say, or Judaism, or Zoroastrianism?
Perhaps I think I'm glad you mentioned it's complicated. Perhaps um, the thing is, for me, is if the actual scripture changes, um, maybe that could be because it's like correcting something. Um, so I can't say for sure that that should make it less compelling. I will say that that does impact its credibility as it changes. What I find to impact its credibility even more is when the religion as practiced begins to deviate from the traditional religion without the text changing, that impacts its credibility more.
I think we agree, like we're on the same page. So if you start deviating from what the text says, like for example, many of the Hindu texts advocate the caste system, and many Hindus today find the caste system absolutely abhorrent. So that would be an example of the practitioners deviating from the what the texts actually advocate. So I think we're agreed on that. If there's a deviation with what people are practicing compared to what the text says, because the text is purportedly from a supernatural source, and a supernatural source is going to have certain features like being infallible or having knowledge that an average human doesn't have. And they also purport to be these timeless truths. So if the text changes or it gets updated or there are mistakes found, then that would destroy the credibility of that religion. Now, if a religion has been preserved, that people are practicing according to its texts, that's not proof that the religion is true, but that's a compelling factor. It adds to the credibility, and I think Islam is really unique as a religion in that regard.